sentence appeared. Recalculating location. I pulled over beside what looked like an old recreation center. At least that's what I thought it was. The parking lot was empty, not abandoned, simply unused. The rain had stopped. The air was perfectly still. No wind, no insect, no distant traffic, only silence. I noticed the front door was slightly open. Warm light spilled onto the pavement. I should have stayed in my car. Instead, I stepped inside. The lobby smelled faintly of chlorine, clean towels, fresh concrete, the kind of smell you only notice at indoor swimming pools. The reception desk was empty. A clipboard rested on the counter. Only one page, only one sentence. Welcome back. Lane assignment pending. I frowned. Back. I'd never been there before. Ahead, a long hallway stretched into the distance. Yellow tiles, cream-colored walls, soft lights humming overhead. The deeper I walked, the warmer the air became. Then I heard it. Water, not splashing, not flowing, simply existing, echoing gently through impossible distances. The hallway ended, and before me was the first pool. It was beautiful, crystal clear, perfectly still. Warm light reflected across the surface like liquid gold. There wasn't a single ripple, no lifeguard, no chairs, no clocks, only water and silence. It should have felt lonely. Instead, it felt welcoming, as though the room had been waiting specifically for me. I sat behind the edge. The water looked warmer than it should have been. Without thinking, I reached down. The moment my fingertips touched the surface, the entire room shivered. Not violently, softly, like someone had taken a slow breath, reaching every wall at exactly the same time. Then they disappeared. The water became perfectly still again. Somewhere far away, I heard another splash, a single drop, then silence. I waited. Nothing. Perhaps another visitor. was tired. Nothing more. The next doorway led somewhere impossible. The ceiling became lower, the air warmer. Steam drifted across the room. The water glowed faintly blue. Somewhere beneath the surface, something slowly moved. Not towards me, not away, just circling. Too deep to identify, too slow to fear. Then a gentle voice echoed through invisible speakers, calm, comforting, almost sleepy. Swimming hours have been extended. A pause. Guest may remain as long as necessary. I frowned. Guest. Who else was there? The announcement continued. Towels are provided. Memories are optional. I laughed quietly. It had to be an old recording. It didn't make sense. Then I noticed I couldn't remember how old I was. The doubt appeared suddenly, then vanished. I tried again. Nothing. I knew my name, but for one frightening moment, I couldn't remember my birthday. The next room contained lockers, hundreds of them. Every locker stood open. Inside each one sat neatly folded clothes, shoes, wallets, watches, phones, all different, all untouched. One locker contained clothes identical to mine. Same jacket, same shoes, same backpack. I checked my own backpack. It was still there, still on my shoulder. So, whose belongings were these? A small sign rested above the lockers. Please leave what you no longer need. I walked away faster. The water slowly became louder, not because it moved, because I began noticing whispers. At first, they blended into the echoes, barely noticeable. Then, individual words emerged. Gently, rest, almost home. None of the voices sounded frightening. They sounded comforting, like old friends speaking from another room. The strangest part was that I recognized one of them. It sounded exactly like my own voice, whispering softly, "Keep walking." I didn't remember saying it, yet somehow it felt familiar. Eventually, I reached the largest room. It stretched farther than I could see. An endless indoor sea. Mist floated above the surface. Tiny lights shimmered beneath the water, like stars. There was no opposite wall, no ceiling, only water, disappearing into darkness. In the center stood a lifeguard chair, empty, except for a clipboard. I climbed the steps. One page, thousands of names, Someone stood waist deep in the water, too far away to recognize. They slowly raised one hand and waved, not asking me to come closer, simply welcoming me. Then another figure appeared, then another, and another. Hundreds, standing silently beneath the warm lights. None of them moved, none of them spoke. They simply watched the water as though they've been there before, for years, perfectly content. For the first time, I felt afraid, not because of them, because I wanted to join them. The water looked peaceful, warmer than anything I'd ever felt. Every worry, every responsibility, every memory suddenly seemed very far away. I took one step towards the edge, then another. The water touched my feet. It was warm, almost impossibly warm, like stepping into a memory instead of a pool. The whispers grew softer, more comforting. You can rest now. No more searching. No more leaving. I closed my eyes. Then, somewhere behind me, a door slammed shut. The sound exploded through the endless room. Every whisper stopped. Every reflection disappeared. Every figure beneath the water turned towards me, not angrily, curiously, as though they hadn't expected me to hear it. I opened my eyes. The warmth vanished. For the first time, the water looked empty, cold, silent, still. I ran through doorway after doorway, pool after pool, hallway after hallway. The lights seemed dimmer now, the echoes longer. Behind me, I heard no footsteps, no splashing, only one announcement repeating gently through unseen speakers. We hope you enjoyed your visit. A pause. Your lane will remain reserved. I finally reached the lobby. The front door stood open. Rain poured inside and outside. My car was exactly where I left it. The GPS worked again. The building behind me was gone. Only an empty parking lot remained. I drove home. I never told anyone, because how could I explain it? How could I explain a place that felt more peaceful than reality itself? But sometimes, late at night, when everything is quiet, I hear it, just beneath the sound of my shower, just beneath the rain outside my window, a single, gentle splash, and for one impossible second, I can almost smell